welcome to episode 51 of Trails in the Pod. I'm Colin. That's Kevin.
Colin, do you like Megan Trainor all that much?
No, I can't say I really care. I don't care for her or care about her in any way, shape, or form.
Because when thinking about Attack on Titan, I'm thinking all about that base. Except in this case, it's the last surviving outpost of humanity's line of defenses against the eponymous Titans.
God damn it, Kevin. I was wondering where you're going with that cold open. That's right, folks. We are talking Attack on Titan, which has nothing to do with Trails, but is part in a long-standing bet/deal that Kevin and I have had. We will talk about that in a minute. But first, Kevin, I want to complain about Amazon very briefly.
It's about their labor practices, how they exploit workers.
No, I don't care about that.
Okay.
In fact, it's seeming like they need to do it more so that I can get my stuff on time. I'm only bringing this up because it directly impacts my ability to do a certain show or a certain episode. So, listeners of the podcast will know that I have moved. And as I said, I believe in the last episode, almost everything made it in except my desk. My desk could not fit through the front door. So, I don't have a desk right now. And I can't set up my desktop to play Planescape until I have a desk. Now, granted, I could probably set it up here in the kitchen, but I kind of don't want to do that because then I would have wires going everywhere. And for the first time, I live in a modicum of a neat apartment, and I want to try to keep it that way for as long as I can anyway. So I say, you know what I need to do, Kevin? I need to buy a desk. So I go around town. I see some desks. They're nothing amazing. I find the perfect desk on Amazon. Cheap, relatively, but good quality. Has power ports right in there. It's L-shaped, but it's a short L-shape, so it fits right in the corner that I need it to be in. Perfect. I hit buy now. Says it'll get here on Wednesday. I understand it'll get there on Wednesday, even though I ordered it on Friday, because there's the weekend, and then there's 4th of July. So things, maybe it'll get moving on Monday, but then it'll stay put on the Tuesday. I'll get it on Wednesday. Then I start to realize that even halfway through Wednesday, it is not out for delivery, but it still says it's going to be here by 9 p.m. Now, at this point, I already know that it's not going to get here by 9 p.m. because things like this have happened to me before. I understand these things. I'm not mad at all. But I decide to post on the Twitter account that I'm not going to get this desk when I thought that I did, solely because I wanted to talk about that with the audience because it will impact my ability to actually get started playing Planescape Torment. Somehow, Amazon finds this post, and their customer service assures me the desk will get there on time. To which I reply, it is physically impossible for it to get here on time. It is in Michigan, and I'm in upstate New York, and it hasn't moved, and it's 5 p.m. Well, let us know. We want to make sure that you get your item. And I'm not mad that I'm not getting my item on time. I should get it in tomorrow. It's in New York now. I'm not even mad that the customer service people found the post. It is their duty to find people talking about Amazon, and especially if it's a podcast kind of a thing, it could be a potential PR problem. But what the fuck is the customer service going to do? Because Amazon deals with this in one of 3 ways. You either get the item, even a little bit late, or you ask for a refund, or you ask for a replacement. All of this is automated. So why do I have a woman named Ashley in my Twitter replies asking where my item is?
Colin, I'm sure all listeners would be thrilled to hear about your dispute with Amazon on a podcast about the Kaseki series in an episode about a totally different anime altogether.
Well, I figure it this way, Kevin. We're on episode 51. We don't talk about ourselves that often. This does have bearing on the show, and it took me 3 minutes to get that out? I feel like our listeners will do us a kindness.
Oh, it felt like 15, but moving on.
So I'm definitely making sure that I edit this episode and not you, because you'll cut it out.
You know who's going to edit? Fuck, I can't transition.
So Kevin, why don't you tell me? So you've been hounding me for years to watch this anime, and I thought I got you good, by putting you on a strict timeline that I would never watch it until we finish the whole Trail series and then set up a podcast in which it takes us 6 months to beat one game. I had no intention to watch this anime, but then I decided that I would throw you a bone. We finished the Liberal arc and we watch and discuss season 1. From your perspective, why is it this anime in particular? Why did you want me to watch this one?
Okay, so for a number of reasons, I think this is anime and also manga that it's based off as art in the same way that the Kiseki series really exemplifies video games as art. It is the realized potential of the art form at among its best. So we have this parallel, Kiseki for games, especially RPGs, JRPGs, and Attack on Titan, Shingeki no Kyojin for anime manga. And I say this despite completely agreeing with you, we don't see a lot of the traditional stock anime tropes in character, plot, and convention, so to speak. It's a great story, great characters that are three-dimensional. Some you love, you come to hate. Some you hate and come to love. It's people doing their best in the world. And
I
it's
will say,
good.
I think the premise of this anime is really, really interesting, right? It's trying to question, how does a society build itself when they're constantly on the precipice of existential threat? And it seems that the way that they do that is they hold themselves up in walls that, mind you, they claimed are effective, but they've been breached a lot by the Titans. So it's kind of like the TSA to an extent, a blanket of security that helps with some things, but if the Titans really want to get in, they're going to get in.
I think it's really apt to compare the garrison troops to TSA, and there's about the same level of competence among them.
But I think that's an interesting point too, because so the premise of this is that the Titans hadn't really breached the walls in 100 years. There'd been 100 years of peace between humanity and the Titans. And the Titans are huge. They look like humans, but they only exist to eat humans. They seem to have no intelligence, although some of the variants seem to. And so they don't even need to eat. They just eat humans because they want to. They're driven by, for some reason, to eat humans. But because they've had 100 years of peace, the military is seen more as a cushy job, right? People compete in order to become part of the military police, which gives you a cushy position, a life of comfort, a life of safety. The only ones that seem to have any reason of being, that seem to have any military ambitions, is the scout force, and they go out of the walls trying to strike at the Titans to expand humanity's borders and see if they can, help humankind survive. And the scout forces die a lot. Like, they are noted for very high casualty rates and not a whole lot of success either.
You see characters that you think you'll be getting to know over a number of episodes, seasons even, snuffed out at, say, for example, the first battle of Trust, killed when trying to locate, fight, and subdue the female Titan and what have you. Death comes for us all, and even you might think comes for the seeming main protagonist of the show, Eren Yeager. And so my question for you, the show wants you to think he's dead, that this protagonist is a decoy. Did you believe it at all?
I did believe it at first because it happened very early and there hadn't been a whole lot of tropes up to that point. So I saw this as a daring move that, okay, you set us up with this character. He seems cool, but kind of like a Ned Stark moment in A Song of Ice and Fire. Then you lose him, and losing that main character kind of has the impact on the viewer that this world is dangerous and that nobody is safe. The one trope that I've noticed so far in this, I mean, there's a few others, but the main trope that I've noticed in this show is that that is not true. Eren Yeager is the epitome of plot armor.
Okay, so that is true. And the only thing that I will say that I can say now, and look at how our positions are reversed for this one and only time.
Until we do it again.
Aaron, look at how our positions are reversed for the shut up, Colin. So Eren Yeager is the quintessential anime shonen young adult male protagonist. He has all these qualities in spades. That's so deliberate, and it leads him to extremely interesting places in his character, in his place in the world. But like he is the protagonist's protagonist. Parents dead, nice traumatizing death for his mom. He has a super unique power that lets him be so special without that much training, though we do see some subversion of it. He's the leader of a little band of ragtags fighting against an implacable foe. On the surface, this should be so corny and tropey, it's unwatchable and sucks.
I will say there's a few things in its favor that helps the season overcome that. For one, the music is pretty damn good. It just kind of helps to set a nice tone. The action sequences are done very well, but I think that the best thing about Eren himself is that we've talked about this in terms of characterization before. We're not afraid to see Eren get angry and like unreasonably angry. You know, like sometimes in order to, like when he's beating up the female Titan at the end, when he finally is able to defeat Annie. He does this by coming to the belief that he wants to kill everything, that he just gives in to all of the murderous rage that's building up there.
There's a darkness in him. And sometimes it veers to the melodramatic. For example, when he starts spouting off, he'll kill all sorts of Titans, and then Mikasa has to shove a piece of bread in his mouth in an early episode, played for comedic effect. But other times, like here, it's kind of like, wow, that's not the healthiest.
Speaking of not the healthiest, I have to make a confession that I'm sure will change as I watch the show. But Kevin, you're not the only person I've talked to about this show. I've talked to a couple of other friends, and all of them, including you, have unanimously declared Mikasa to be a fantastic character. And she has an interesting backstory, right? She's one of the few Asians left alive. That's interesting. And she's very good at combat, sure. But other than that, I can summarize her character so far in one word. Because that's the word that is out of her mouth 50% of the time she's speaking. It's not even just her life is centered around protecting Eren. Sometimes the only thing she can say is his name. And I'm sure that she will get more interesting in season 2 or season 3. But in season 1, I've kept waiting for her to be cool. And she was not, I mean, she has some cool moments, but I can't say that I particularly fell in love with her character.
Colin, I think it's really hypocritical for you to look at this late adoptee with a mysterious-ish past who's good at fighting into the protagonist's family and say they're not cool when you have such regard for Joshua in FC and SC. So I'm just gonna note that, and then we can all move on from the blatant hypocrisy.
The only word that comes out of Joshua's mouth is "astudy." Like Joshua has a real character.
Okay. You are 100% right, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I was one of the ones who's a big Mikasa stan.
You said she was a good character.
Okay. Yeah, she's a good character. There's a lot of ones I like more. Love Krista. She's one of my favorites. Annie, Reiner. So they're all, I think, I like better than Mikasa. I'd say Krista's my fave, then
Which one's Krista?
Hyde, Annie, and Reiner. She's the one who's friends with Emir Freckles, short, blonde.
I don't remember this
I
character.
would say mysterious past, but that kind of describes 80% of the characters.
I will say, like, I recognize the name Reiner. Krista, I probably have run into as well, but there is a weird thing that the series does in that it establishes a lot of characters very quickly and then drops them, except Annie, because Annie comes back at the end. But it's because we're following Erin's career, and not everybody's making it to the Scout Force. Not everybody is important enough to do that. So maybe these characters come back later, or maybe they have been there, and because I've had to watch them at different, watch some episodes here and watch some episodes there, that I don't quite notice it. But I can't say I'm a big Reiner fan. Gene is fucking cool. I love his character.
He has the normal response to this shit. It's like, I want to be in the military police to protect myself and my family. That is a normal reaction to the Titans.
Yeah, but what I like about him too is that in real time, you can see how a sense of duty is created in him by virtue of his firsthand experience with the Titans and being inspired by Erin's leadership.
And also by his friend's death.
That too, Marco.
Polo.
I think that the series does a really good job, or the season does a really good job at showing the progress that Gene makes to become a leader, and how it's the fact that he started off only wanting safety and security for his family. It's those key instincts that he still has that allows him to become the leader of men, because he knows where everybody is at and knows when to push and knows when to pull back.
Not only that, he's still kind of an asshole with and to Aaron. They still don't get along on an interpersonal level. But one, that doesn't change the fact they can fight together. And two, it allows him some pettiness and poor qualities that you would expect in someone. That soldiers are not saints.
Right. But at the end of the day, I mean, when Aaron is waking up at the final episode after his fight with Annie, he's right there. It's Mikasa,
Yeah.
and it's Jean. Or Jean.
Yeah, and just goes to show you can think someone, you don't like them, but you have their back and they have yours, and you don't want them to die.
Yeah.
It's a good. Aaron doesn't cast a protagonist spell that makes everyone love him and, ignore his very real, difficult to get along with parts of him.
One thing that I wanted to talk about is that I did feel that this season, it introduced a lot of questions as opposed to a lot of answers, which is fine. I mean, the manga had already been created. This is meant as a series. Not everything has to be answered in season one. The only reason why I kind of expected it was because a friend of mine told me that all the seasons kind of stand alone, which has to not be true. But for instance, one thing that I was really confused about at first was this concept of a Titan mole, a Titan inside the gate spying on humanity, which is identified as Annie. And clearly, there's some weird stuff going on there. She can also turn into a Titan, just like Eren. Both of them have a weird relationship with their father that we've seen through flashbacks. It's very, very heavily implied that Eren is given the Titan power by his father through an injection that he has traumatic memories of at certain moments. Would not surprise me if Annie experienced something similar. But what's different is that while Eren is inside the walls and uses his Titan powers to fight for humanity, Annie seems to be on the side of the Titans. At least that's the impression you get right now. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe we'll see it in season 2, which does imply that the Titans have a plan. Titans have a goal. Titans feel the need to put moles inside. And yet, I have seen Titans literally kick the door down. So if their goal is to eradicate humanity, I don't see the need for a mole.
We saw what the Colossal Titan and what the Armored Titan can do in the pilot.
Yeah.
Episode 1 of the series. They destroyed Wall Maria. And like you said, this then raises the question, what you can do through brute strength easily in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, why wait years with infiltration that you're not really sure what's going on? Like, what was Andy doing for how many years was it between the fall of Sina, Shingon Sina, and the Battle for Trust. 4 or 5.
Like that, yeah.
And they were just fucking training in base camp, whatever.
And the other thing, I mean, and these are more questions that we have to find out, is that it does seem to me that the goal of the Titans cannot be extinction of humanity, on account of the fact that they seem to intentionally leave them alive. No, not individually, because the ones that don't have intelligence are driven by base instinct and eat them. But we did have this 100-year period of peace. And then it's not like the Titans came in when they broke the peace and destroyed all of humanity. They landed a colossal blow, and they landed another colossal blow just a few other episodes after that. But with all of them, the humans knew that if they could wait it out, eventually the Titans would leave. There never seemed, there was like a stop their advance, but there never seemed to be a fear that they will overrun us and destroy the whole of the base. They there doesn't seem to be much of a fear that it's going to get all the way to the inner layer. And I kind of question, like, seeing monsters of that prowess, I would be afraid that within however long a time, a week, a month, that they could eradicate all of humanity. That was really what their mission was. So their mission, in my opinion, cannot be that. But then you have to wonder why you have these mindless drones that look like humans, naked humans, that are driven seemingly solely by the desire to eat them.
Maybe it was just really tasty and got the munchies. So you raised some interesting points. What happened the day Shingansen fell? Why was it that day? Why not 10 years later? Why not 10 years earlier? What is it about this day? What is it about this Caesura between Shingansina and Trust? Nothing for years. When they could have gone on to the second wall and the third wall within days. Do you have any? You've raised these glaring questions. With only one season, do you have any even provisional answers?
Well, I have things that I think will help us get there.
Yes. Or what do we need to know more about?
Well, there are two types of Titans. There are these drones, and then there are these big ass ones, or variants, or what have you. The ones that do seem to have intelligence. The big guy that could see over the wall that Eren defeated. In no way did he defeat him. Like, I'm fairly certain he didn't. He just happened to disappear. They clearly have intelligence, as does Annie when she's turning into a Titan. And the fact of the matter is, the Titans look like humans. It would not surprise me at all if the Titans are some sort of human invention that either went wrong or there's a. I could see Attack on Titan pulling that whole thing of, yes, what we're doing is evil, but we're doing this evil in order to prevent a bigger evil happening. I don't, so, I mean, now I'm just spitballing, but could it be a commentary on like Malthusian theories of overpopulation? That the Titans are there to control the size of the human population because if they expand too far and too wide and overpopulate and everything, the planet will be destroyed. This could be a thing. So I personally, that's what I'm sticking to right now. I think it is likely that there is some kind of overarching intelligence to the whole operation that is not intending to eradicate humanity, but is intending to limit its spread for whatever reason.
Yeah, and then so my question is, these are all really good points. Are these big titans, is Eren, is Annie, are they titans who can turn into humans, or humans who can turn into titans?
Well, Eren almost certainly is a human that can turn into a Titan because unless it's going to be revealed that all the flashbacks are wrong, he appears to have been given this ability by an injection by his father.
Yeah. And then about flashbacks being wrong, let's step back and think about this as a media thing in games and audio visual media. Is it fair? Is it okay for the games, movies, TV shows to present information in a flashback to us without obvious cues that it can be fake or misleading, and then later on say, actually, what you had no reason to suspect was false is actually false? Is this playing fair with the viewer or the player.
So you know how I kept telling you that you should play Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah.
This question impinges directly on Final Fantasy VII. So before I go on, first I'll ask you personally, do you care if I spoil a big plot twist in Final Fantasy VII?
I already know that Cloud is Sephiroth.
Well, he's not Sephiroth.
That's a joke.
Sure. Okay. Listeners who want to avoid Final Fantasy VII spoilers, I will put a time code in the description for when we stop talking about this particular topic. So, in the beginning of Final Fantasy VII, once you get out of the first area, Midgar, which takes up the entirety of Final Fantasy VII Remake, but is only the first 6 hours of Final Fantasy VII, you are Cloud gives you a flashback in which he is explaining who Sephiroth is and how he came to know him. And he tells the
Yeah.
story about how Cloud was in Soldier, so was Sephiroth, and they had fought side by side. Sephiroth was like the commander, and Cloud was a junior guy starting to get on the ranks. He saw Sephiroth as a bit of a mentor. And then Sephiroth, I'm collapsing a lot of stuff here. They're in the same hometown as Tifa, because Cloud and Tifa grew up together. And Sephiroth kind of goes crazy when he discovers, I think this is when he discovers Genova, and kind of goes nuts. And Cloud tries to, Tifa goes in, and Cloud tries to protect her and ends up being wounded by Sephiroth. Almost died, is what he claims. And throughout this whole flashback, Tifa never quite says, yes, I remember it that way, but she never says that this didn't happen. What you will get are, on some details, she will confirm that that is the case. And in other details, she'll just like not say anything. And then the big plot twist that happens about 2/3 of the way through the game is that Cloud was not that guy at all. That other guy was a guy named Zach, who also turned out to be Aerith's boyfriend. Zach was the guy in Soldier, not Cloud. Cloud was a guard on the same mission, but he was a grunt, and he just watched everything happen. He wasn't a part of it, which is why some of the details he said were correct, but he was not the central player of this. He was never in Soldier. He never was infused with Mako. Or if he was, it was a little amount. He was not the soldier he claimed that he was. And a lot of the game is trying to look at how Cloud did that as a psychological protection mechanism to rebuild his identity around what he wanted to be. And then part of his character growth is coming to grips with the truth of the matter and to realizing that he is not Zach, he is Cloud. And that whole plot twist only works effectively on the player because as a first-time player, you have basically no reason to think that that first flashback is incorrect. It is incorrect. It is misleading. And you can kind of see some of the signs of it going back, but you're not going to see them the first time you play it. And I find that to be very effective. I found it to be an incredibly good use of playing with the player's expectations, pardon the pun, in order to show characters' own struggles, because you also have to go through the same struggle of putting pieces of the narrative back together and realizing what the truth of it actually was. So in that sense, I think it can be done very well. Whether Attack on Titan is doing that or not, I don't have the context for yet.
So Zach is Sephiroth.
Yes, Kevin, Zach is Sephiroth, as is revealed in Advent Children.
Thank you. That's what I got out of it. So to make a long story short, this can be fair play if, like all things, not only if it's done well, but in service of a larger dramatic purpose, not just tricking. It can't just be tomfoolery or chicanery. It has to change somehow at a fundamental level what we think of the person of the event.
Yeah, I think it has to be done purposefully and presumably in a way that allows the viewer or audience member or whatever to understand what is going on in the mind of a protagonist. Basically, it's not meant to be like, hey, see what we did there? It shouldn't be clever. It should be used as a vehicle to understand another character's struggles.
Exactly. Being clever for the sake of being clever very rarely works out well.
That's why grad school sucks.
Also, yes. So, what are some elements you weren't fond of? Whether plot points, characters, themes, what say you?
Well, I feel like I just ran through the stuff that I wasn't that fond with. I didn't think that Mikasa was that interesting, and I was troubled by this concept of the Titan mole. But
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that I really like. I mean, just from a superficial level, the eight directional movement thing is basically Spider-Man, and I fucking love Spider-Man, but it's cooler because you have two swords. And then when your swords break, you have more swords. And swords are cool. I would say that in the episode in which like gas is the big limiter, they probably should have told us before that episode that these things run on gasoline because I was very confused as to why they needed gas until halfway through the episode.
yeah. Okay, the Omni gear is very cool. I think if you try to do it in real life, these centrifugal forces, the motions, the stop, the turns would I think they'd probably kill someone.
Or at the very least, induce vomiting.
At the absolute minimum. It's a really great way to narratively and visually even a playing field fighting titans.
Yeah. And also, I think very subtly, it shows where society's technological advances are. Because if you, I mean, you look at the rest of the society, it's basically a medieval society. People are using horses to go around, wagons and horses. There does not appear to be that much of a concept of electricity, at least not in the poorer areas. Um, Nobody's going to the laundromat, for instance, right? But what
Yeah.
you do have are gas powered movement devices that are developed in order to fight against the existential threat. So I kind of like how it shows that science is dictated by necessity. This is not peaceful times in which you have scientists experimenting purely for the sake of a pure knowledge. They are experimenting so that they can defeat titans.
It's a siege mentality. Day to day, you may not notice, but overall, it's humanity is penned in like sheep for the slaughter.
Yeah. Something else that I was quite surprised about is that I always get not afraid, but wary when a fight is like between a small human and a big giant. Because
Mhm.
how are you supposed to even the playing field? How is this interesting? Either the human is going to instantly kill the big guy like David does Goliath, and then because otherwise they'll die. And the giant purely like clearly has pure physical superiority. But somehow with the advent of the Omnigear, they are able to make these fight scenes interesting, especially when it's against some of the more intelligent Titans that
Yeah,
recognize that the back of their head is the weak point. Um, and also that they keep things moving fast. So even if it's a time where you're just fighting a lot of drones, the moment to moment might not be that interesting, but what you are seeing is a lot of it happening all at once, kind of showing the chaos of the event. And then the action is not so much about the individual fights, but more about the collective effort to defend. I think that was quite
exactly.
effective.
And visually, they do a good job of making it a spectacle. It's spectacular in a literal sense of the word, and also fighting the big titans, the intelligent titans. You see that the humans are on a very thin margin of error. Just you mess up once, and you are most likely going to be dead.
Yeah. And not
But
instantly. I mean, you can be eaten. And we saw when Aaron was inside of the Titan when he was eaten, that you don't die right away. You dissolve.
it's pretty horrifying. It's not a clean death. You know, And the best thing is they get your head quick. Otherwise, if it's piece by piece or God or swallow you whole, it's not great, Colin. Not a good way to go.
So I have a controversial claim to make that I will say up front, I already disagree with it because of how the character evolves and shows his worth. But when Armin is, when they're participating in the defense of Trost, and Armin is
Yeah.
about to get eaten, I gotta tell you, the correct tactical thing to do would have been for Eren to let Armin get eaten because he did not do like any fighting, and Eren was a leader of men. And instead, he sacrifices himself, and then Armin, this useless piece of trash, is able to survive. Now, granted, Eren has plot armor and turns into a Titan, which like transforms the whole landscape of the battlefield. So that worked out. And I do think this is an interesting character moment for Armin because then he realizes that he needs to contribute more, and also knows that his physical prowess is not what's going to help him contribute. Right, this is the trigger moment for him to start becoming a tactician, and Armin as a tactician is really interesting. I'm just saying, like in that moment, Eren should not have saved him.
I mean, anyone with that kind of bald haircut deserves to die.
Totally, totally.
It's not a good look. Not a good look at all.
Like if your mother cut your hair like that, I get it, but his parents have been missing for years. You asked me who the female Titan was, and I had two guesses. I think one was Annie, only because the anime seemed to put a lot of attention on this woman who was never involved in anything. So I'm like, okay, something is going on with this chick. And also, the anime on a couple of points had stressed that Armin, his parents were missing, he has blonde hair, and the female Titan spares Armin. And so I'm like, well, that's clearly his mother. And maybe Annie is his mother. I don't know.
Being awfully young parent, Annie is not Armin's mom. I feel like this is, late stage Game of Thrones notebook in the past 12 years level of theory for like fucking time traveling Annie is Armin's mom.
Okay, this is an anime. Time travel can be a thing. I'm not
Also,
throwing it
yes.
out the window yet. Maybe the Titans are humans that saw the apocalypse and time traveled back to kill humanity to prevent the apocalypse.
And then they develop technology to beat the Titans that ends up causing the apocalypse.
Here's a question for you, and you cannot answer this question because you might know the answer, and I don't want to know the answer. But there are intelligent Titans. This is an established fact, right? Annie is an intelligent Titan. And when she becomes a Titan, she does not lose that intelligence.
Are you making a blonde joke?
No, I'm not making a blonde joke. Could it be conceivable that at some point, if the humans become enough of a threat to the Titans, that the Titans then develop technology of their own to more effectively kill humans? I'm just saying, you can't answer this question. I'm not expecting an answer, but
What?
it's something that
I wasn't listening.
Uh-huh.
I'm kidding. I can't answer. I can't. I can neither, as you say, confirm nor deny.
Kevin, I'm going to say something. When I was driving down to New York City, I was telling our friend Mary about this bet that we had. And I confided in her and I said, Mary, I'm afraid. Because if I like this, Kevin will have won. Because I will not be able to hold out and wait until the end of Crossbell to watch season 2. And then the end of Cold Steel, which, by the way, would include Reverie.
So, for fuck's sake.
So 5 games, 3 of which are 100-hour RPGs, just to get to season 3. I don't think that I can do that. I think I'm going to have to watch the rest of this.
Long ones.
Said what?
One of the big long ones.
Cold Steel 3, 4, and Reverie.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good show. There's 4 and like 3/4 seasons out.
Yeah, apparently they just dropped a trailer for like the final part of the final season. At this point, it's not even a season. Like, just call it season 4.
So we had season four, part one, that was in 2021, season four, part two, that was in 2022, season four, part three, that was in March, and then we're going to be doing season four, part four.
That's some bullshit. I have been told that there's a part in season 3 or 4. I thought there were only 3 seasons, but whatever. In the latest season, there's a part that appears to some people to be a Holocaust parallel, and that there has been a debate in my department about it that I did not understand at the time. But I've been assigned that when I get there, I have to weigh in. You don't have to
There's
say
a
anything.
lot.
I'm just letting you know what's going on in my head.
And I hope they know that you are experiencing this for the first time, so they don't
They do. Sarah did let one thing slip when I was talking about because I was sharing with her my theory that obviously something is happening with with fathers, with Aaron and Annie's father both. There seems to be something going on there. And then she said like there is a struggle to capture the power of the Titans for humanity's sake. And like you can kind of tell that with Aaron's dad, so it's not that big of a spoiler, which is why I don't mind saying it here, but it did give something away. And I told her to shut the fuck up, and then we went back to work.
I heartily approve of verbal violence.
I didn't say shut the fuck up. I'm a nice person. I told Kevin to shut the fuck up.
So you're not a nice person, because I'm nicer than anyone.
But as you once said on this podcast, Kevin, good doesn't always mean nice.
No. And look at Levi.
I like his character a lot. And he's one of those that borders on the tropey too, because he's like that strong, silent type, just very effective at murdering, but I don't know. There's something about him where because he's no nonsense, like even when Aaron's like, do I transform and fight the female Titan or not? And he's like, look, we told you not to. If you do, I'm not going to blame you. Like, this world is difficult. There are hard choices to make, and you got to stick by your guns.
He also says, look at them big ass trees.
I don't think he says that.
It's in the dub.
Okay, I watch it subbed. Speaking of sub, something that I found interesting about the openings in general, and this is just a meta point. It's really common for Japanese songs to have English phrases in them. Very common. In fact, when I hear a Japanese song without English in it, I'm surprised. Both of these openings in season 1 use Japanese and German. Now, the first one is grammatically incorrect German, but the second one is just using, phrases like Flügel der Freiheit or Linie der Torheit, which is interesting. And it's something that we'll see happen in Crossbelt, even when we're seeing more Jaeger Corps and stuff like that. I think that I'd be curious to learn more about it, because it seems to me through these examples that Japan's awareness of foreign languages, obviously there's Chinese in there, but you don't see a whole lot of Chinese in their popular media, at least that the Westerners consume. They use a lot of English and stuff. The secondary foreign language for them is German after English, at least in terms of Western languages. Could this be going all the way back to World War II in which they fought on the same side? I don't know, because we fought against them in World War II and they love us. And one typically doesn't try to maintain relationships with Nazis. So I don't know what's going on there. I'd be curious to know more about the cultural history of German stuff in Japan.
Yeah, you raised a lot of good points. I'd say the German keep listening and then keep watching the show as it develops and expands.
Sure. I mean, there's also the thematic thing too, right? We see in Trails that German is used primarily in military contexts or in contexts that are deliberately fashioned after German history, like Bismarck being
Osborne.
model for what's his face, Osborne.
And so the references and allusions, it's not a binary, it's a spectrum. It's how deeply do they engage? What do they intend? What do they not intend? What do they want us to fill in? how do they deviate? And that's always something we've got to keep in mind when stories reference in fictional settings stuff from the real world.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
totally.
Do they know about, Bismarck used to be a bit of a reformer until, say, but the 1848 revolutions really crystallized him along a certain way. Is Osborne a Bismarck with that drive that was never turned to reaction? I don't know.
Well, I can neither confirm nor deny. Kevin, is there anything else you want to talk about? Because my final thoughts are I really enjoyed this. I feel like it's difficult to talk only about season one because, as I said, there are more questions laid out than answers. Um, it is very likely that we will have a season two episode relatively soon because I want to watch more of this. Kevin, you win.
Good. It's such a foreign feeling to me. I better savor it while it lasts.
It's not often that I concede victory to you.
I'll take it for this. I'm glad the bet was on this show and not a show that, in retrospect, turned out to suck because I would never have lived it down.
Nope, no, he would not have.
Yeah, I don't have anything more. It's great to see someone going on this journey, the thoughts when there's so many more questions than answers, where it's not retrospective and analyzing and why did it happen the way it did. Cannot wait to hear through Messenger, then as we record your thoughts on of season two of Attack on Titan, Electric Titaning.
Shut the fuck up, Kevin.
It's like, Boogie Nights 2, Electric Boogie.
Yeah, shut the fuck up.
On that note, next episode will be episode 52, and that topic is.
He seems that Kevin has forgotten. Our plan is to play that PSP game, Ease versus Kiseki. It's a short arena fighter starring Ease characters and characters from the Sky Arc plus Lloyd. I would like to say that the episode after that will be Planescape Torment. I was also supposed to start playing Planescape 6 days ago, and I haven't. So we might have to think of something else and then have a Planescape episode as one of our normal sidebars going forward. But we'll talk about that.
We may do the audio drama for the Kiseki series.
If we do that, so you had also brought up the idea of doing like a Kevin speculation thing. And I will say, so shout outs to Pork Bob, because last week when we talked about where Joshua and Estelle were in when the third happened, Pork Bob was very quick to point out to me that Joshua explicitly says, we are in Crossbell right now once they arrive in Phantasma. And he literally went back to my stream VOD to find that line of dialogue. So number one, that's a lot of effort. But number two, shouldn't have kept the VOD. Then he proved that I was wrong. But we always thank Pork Bob for his attention to detail on things like this. And so it behooves me to tell you that Pork Bob thinks that we can get 20 to 25 minutes out of the audio drama max. Now, we know how to puff things up. Maybe we get 30, 35, 40. But maybe it would be better to do a Kevin speculation about Crossbell and also talk about the audio drama as one episode.
A lot of weighty items to ponder. And as we do, until next time, I'm Kevin. That's Colin. See you. I already said next time. See you next time.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.